In this video, we are talking about how to multiply and divide with rational numbers. Remember, rational numbers include integers, fractions, decimals, and whole numbers. Okay, so in these particular examples, you will be working on multiplying and dividing two different types of numbers. So the most important thing we need to note about this is that they need to be in the same format. Okay? So in previous lessons, you worked on adding and subtracting, multiplying, dividing decimals, and multiplying and dividing fractions. So we should hopefully be caught up to speed on how to multiply decimals and fractions with each other, or with themselves. To be able to multiply them by each other, we either need to pick decimals or fractions. We can't have one of each. We need to make them the same format. In this first example, I am going to turn the fraction into a decimal so I can multiply these together. To do that, I'm going to remember top in, bottom out. So 5 is on the top, so it goes inside our division. Bottom goes outside, that's 8. And 8 goes into 5 exactly 0 times. So I'm going to put a 0 after the decimal place. And I'm going to make sure my decimal place is in the top as well. 8 goes into 50 exactly 6 times, so 6 times 8 is 48. I end up with a 2, so I'm going to keep going here. So 8 goes into 20 twice. 8 times 2 is 16. And finally, I have 40, which 8 goes into 5 times. 8 times 5 equals 40 exactly, so that is good to go. And this is my decimal form. So I have 8.9 times 0.625 in this problem. Now that I have them in the same format, I can multiply these together. As I have shown several of you in person, when you are multiplying decimals, I strongly recommend you ignore the decimal for the actual multiplication part. Just multiply the 2-digit by 3-digit number, in this case, 625 times 89. And then I'll count my decimals up, my 4 decimals up at the end, and place those back where they belong. So 9 times 5 gives me 45. I'm going to carry the 4. 9 times 2 is 18 plus 4 is 22. 9 times 6 is 54, 55, 56. And then, of course, I have times 80, so I'm going to put my placeholder 0 there. I'm going to use a different color so I don't confuse myself. 8 times 5 is 40. Carry my 4 again. 8 times 2 is going to give me 16 plus 4 is 20 also. 8 times 6 is 48 plus 2 is 50. So 5 plus 0 is 5. 2 plus 0 is 2. 6 plus 0 is 6. 5 plus 0 is 5. And 5 plus nothing is 5. So, as I mentioned before, now I can count up my decimal places. And I have 3 in this decimal, 1 in this decimal. So I'm going to move that over 1, 2, 3, 4 times total. And my answer is 5.5625. Okay? In this next example, this is my preference. I'm going to turn my decimal into a fraction. Multiplying with fractions and dividing with fractions is a lot more user-friendly than multiplying and dividing with decimals in general, okay? So I recommend with multiplying and dividing, we use our fraction form, but then when it comes to adding and subtracting, decimals are generally a lot easier for us to use because it is much more simple to line up a decimal place than it is to work with common denominators. So it's really your preference. Either way is fine, but consider that it might be a little bit easier in one form over another. So to turn this into a fraction so I can multiply it, I am going to use the reading method, reading it out loud, right? It's going to be 8 and 9/10. Now to multiply, I need this to be an improper fraction, right? Well, it's easiest if I have an improper fraction. So I'm going to get mad, use that C method. 10 times 8 is 80, plus 9 is 89 over 10, and I'm multiplying it by 5 over 8. Okay, now I can simplify here, and I'm going to do that so that I can make my life a little easier. 5 and 10 both simplify by 5, so that's 2 on the denominator and 1 in the numerator. 89 and 8 do not simplify with one another, and 89 does not simplify with 2. So I am going to say 89 times 1, which is 89, and 2 times 8, which is 16. Now, if I were to divide 89 by 16, I should get the same answer as what I got in the previous screen. 89/16. Our next example, we have another multiplication problem. I do want to point out that this one is not decimal friendly, okay? There are some problems that we have to do our fraction form, whether we like it or not, because we have a repeating decimal. If I turn 1/3 into a decimal, 1/3, 1 divided by 3 is 0.3 repeating. So I cannot accurately multiply that because of the fact that it goes on forever and ever and ever. So I do need to turn this number into an improper fraction so that I can multiply it by 1/3. So same as last time, I have 8 and 7/10. So I'm going to do my C method here. I'm going to multiply 10 times 8, which is 80, plus 7 is 87 over 10, and I'm going to multiply that by 1/3. This can't be simplified. It's going to be pretty straightforward. 1 times 87 is 87. 3 times 10 is 30. Now I can turn this back into an improper fraction, or sorry, a mixed number from an improper fraction. 30 goes into 80 exactly twice, and then we still have 27 left over out of the 30. I apologize, this can be simplified. So 27 divided by 30, I can divide both of these by 3. 27 divided by 3 is 9. And 30 divided by 3 is 10, so I have 2 and 9/10. Final example, we have division. Again, division is going to be a lot easier to work with if I have fractions. Decimals are totally possible here, but I strongly recommend, especially since you won't have access to a calculator when completing problems like this on the state assessments, that you use fraction form. Okay, so I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to use fraction form. So 3 and 4/10, I have 3 and 4 over 10. I'm going to simplify this fraction before I turn it into an improper fraction to make my life a little easier at the end. So 3 and 2/5, because those can both be divided by 2. And then I'm going to get mad here and use that C method. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 2 is 17. Sorry, that should be a 17 over 5, divided by 3 over 4. 17 over 5. Let's clean that up a little. 17 over 5 divided by 3 over 4. As we do with our fractions, we're going to keep, change, and flip. 17 times 4 and 5 times 3. So I know that bottom part is 15. 17 times 4, I'm going to bring it over here just so I can make sure I understand where this is all coming from. 4 times 7 is 28. Carry my 2. 4 times 1 is 4. Plus 2 is 6. So that answer is 68 over 15. Now I can simplify this. 15 goes into 68 4 times. I have 8 left over and 15 remaining. That cannot be simplified. This is my final answer. Go ahead and give your practice your best shot too.